A few countries control most of the world's energy, and when that system is disrupted, the entire world pays the price. Right now, that disruption is happening in one place, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow stretch of water carries nearly 20% of global oil supply. Every day, around 20 million barrels of oil pass through it. It is one of the most critical choke points on Earth, and today it sits at the center of rising tensions between the United States and Iran. As that tension escalates, oil is no longer just a resource, it becomes leverage. And the effects are already visible. Fuel prices are rising, inflation pressures are returning, and some countries are being hit much harder than others. Since the start of the crisis, oil prices have surged above $100 per barrel, even approaching $120. More than 80 countries have reported fuel price increases. But not all countries are affected equally. Some absorb the shock, others are overwhelmed by it. In Asia, countries like Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Bangladesh are under pressure. These economies depend heavily on imported fuel. As prices rise, fuel shortages emerge, economic activity slows. In Southeast Asia, Indonesia and Vietnam face similar risks. Their reliance on Middle Eastern oil makes them vulnerable. In Africa, the situation is even more fragile. Many countries import over 70% of their refined fuel, which means they are directly exposed to global price shocks. Transport costs increase, electricity becomes more expensive, and food prices follow. Even oil-producing countries like Nigeria remain vulnerable, because limited refining capacity forces them to import fuel. In developed economies, the impact is still significant. In the United States, fuel prices have surged in multiple regions, in some areas exceeding $5 per gallon. In Europe, households are facing rising transport and energy costs. Australia has seen sharp increases, petrol rising over 30%, diesel over 40%. So which countries are hit the hardest? Countries that depend on imports, lack refining capacity, and operate with weaker currencies. These include Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, and parts of Southeast Asia. These countries lack control, and in a crisis, lack of control becomes vulnerability. On the other side, some countries are managing the situation better. Oil producers like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Russia are less affected domestically, because they control supply. In some cases, they benefit from higher prices. This reveals the global power structure. Energy is not evenly distributed, it is controlled. A small group of countries dominates production: Saudi Arabia, Russia, the United States, and key members of OPEC. OPEC controls roughly 30 to 40% of global oil production. But more importantly, it holds over 70% of proven oil reserves, which means it shapes both current and future supply. Through OPEC+, including Russia, this alliance controls over 50% of global oil supply. Decisions made within this group can move markets within hours. But even this power has limits, because oil must still move, and that movement depends on geography. The Strait of Hormuz connects major producers to global markets: Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE. All rely on this route. When disrupted, supply becomes uncertain, and markets react to uncertainty faster than reality. That is why oil prices can surge 10 to 20% within days. Now consider the geopolitical dimension. This is not just about energy, it is about power. Iran has the ability to disrupt the strait. Even the threat alone shakes global markets, because controlling a choke point means controlling flow, and controlling flow means controlling leverage. The United States is focused on securing these routes, because whoever controls stability in the strait controls global energy security. This is why the world is watching closely, because this is not just a regional conflict, it is a global risk. If disruption continues, oil prices remain high, inflation rises, growth slows, and vulnerable countries face deeper crises. So what are the key lessons? Energy is power. Geography creates leverage. Dependence creates vulnerability. And control of infrastructure is control of the system. Because power is not always visible. Sometimes it flows through narrow channels. OPEC controls supply, but choke points control flow. And in the global energy system, flow is everything. The world is not just connected, it is dependent. And in that dependency, power emerges. This is Black Gold Intelligence. Study power. Build accordingly.